I think it's been great that we've kept our large lady voices at the table because it has given that role model for everyone else on the team to say, like, I can speak up. My voice can be heard. And as a female, I feel empowered to grow and to do big things. All right, welcome back. We are actually live from Las Vegas.
Yes, we are.
We're at the IMEX America show, and it is one of the largest trade shows for our industry. And we are recording an episode of Event Planner Confessions from Vegas together, live and in person.
Love that.
And really excited for the week ahead. We have all kinds of fun activations going on the trade show floor. We have decided to do something a little bit different at the show this year where we're really destination specific into our different individual destination booths. So we've got representation all over the trade show floor this year. Instead of a huge, CSI booth, we've got a smaller CSI footprint so that we can really invest in our destinations because we are destination experts at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm just really excited to see what the next few days bring. And I'm most excited to have a whole bunch of CSI people to hang out with.
I can't wait. We're all gathering later. So it's going to be great to see everyone again. And it's going to be exciting to kick everything off.
Absolutely. So today we really wanted to talk about why the DMC industry skews female or just shed a little bit more light on the female leadership roles that are out there in this industry that are different necessarily than other markets. And, as I think about here being in Las Vegas, we don't have any men attending from our team.
No,
we have an all-female group.
I think it's a perfect segue because every single person that's coming is female. And that tends to be the trend, right? Within our organization. So
So, let's take it back to the origin of DMCs. We actually were a women-founded company. Jill McGregor, she started the company back in 1987, and for those of you who don't know, Capital Services, Inc. is what CSI stands for. The nation's capital is really where we began and where we spent most of our company's history. So Jill McGregor, being a wonderful female leader, led us to be the largest and strongest DMC in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, she lost her battle with cancer about almost 13 or 14 years ago now. And as part of the sort of changing of the guards at CSI, a lot of changes happen. And we grew from just a DC company to a DMC that had representation all over the country. And with that, David Hainline, who was Jill's ex-husband, took over as CEO, and he brought in a business partner, gentleman from the Four Seasons, Tom Hubler, and then they brought in Amberly Huggins, who was the president of CSI for many years, and really
involved in that DC market for sure.
Yeah, she worked in every role in DC, and really was under Jill's leadership, kind of her number two for a huge amount of years. And then in their first expansion to South Florida, they brought Hope Valentine on as a partner, and she has been really integral in the growth of the organization, especially post-COVID. And then, a few years back, I became a partner at CSI. So now we've got 3 ladies and 2 men. We're outnumbering them again.
I don't mind that.
And I just think it's sort of an interesting transition as we talk about, originally DMCs, sort of mom and pop DMCs, were heavily female owned and heavily female managed and run. And when I think about a lot of the DMCs that I was aligned with when we were part of the DMC network, which was a lot of, smaller independent DMCs, they were all heavily female managed, female run. And I think about the sort of old school style of a housewife, right? They were in charge of the family. They were in charge of keeping everyone organized. They were in charge of the parties that they threw as a husband and wife couple. The women hosted, right? And I think if you take some of those really old school traditional sort of stereotypes about men and women, you think about some of the skill sets that a woman was told to bring to the table, you know, being hospitable, being service oriented, being flexible, managing chaos of lots of children, right? Those were all qualities that when you start to think about a DMC were really important in building a company that is trying to accomplish all those things, be service oriented, hospitable, and manage a lot at once. But a big reason that a lot of females really took this on as a profession was because it was flexible. And because they could work around their home life and their, you know, especially as we evolved now into, you know, the 2000s and beyond, we're talking about a very different, you know, it isn't the men goes to work and the woman stays home anymore. Obviously, here we are, ladies who work. And I think as you think about the role of a housewife doesn't exist anymore. It's because women have taken on these opportunities, and so many of them are in hospitality because they align so much with some of the history of sort of the traditional role of a woman. So, Ashley, you've been in a few DMCs before.
I have, yes.
Tell me, what's your experience been with women-led teams at those DMCs?
Yeah, I mean, every DMC I've ever been in has been led by female leadership. And all of my mentors and all of the opportunities that I've had in order to grow my career have come from the relationships that I've developed with women in these leadership roles at DMCs. You know, I think it's interesting when you talk about the flexibility, just to kind of bring it full circle. I think the reason why I've continued to stay within the DMC world and have committed my time so you know, dedicated to kind of growing my career in this space is because of that flexibility. You know, being a young mom, having 2 kids, it's really important to not feel like you have to sacrifice anything. And we get support from the top down, especially at CSI, in terms of, you know, making sure your family is at the forefront of, you know, of your life. And having the opportunity to have that flexibility has been invaluable.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, some of the skills we talk about being such important skills at CSI or in hospitality and in general with leadership roles is, you know, creative, high organization and high empathy. And I think when I think about those 3 skills, I think about the other types of industries that are heavy female, right? Creative professionals, you see a lot in like PR, fashion, that sort of thing, which has a lot of overlap to what we do. Organizational skills, you see that in a lot of admin roles, HR. You know, I can't tell you how many of our clients are executive assistants or HR teams that are doing their company outings and team events. And then the high empathy with teachers and nurses and things like that. You just have to think about how much we do that where empathy is so important in driving the success of an event. So I just think about some of those different kind of other female dominated industries that exist and where there might be a little bit of overlap with CSI, but with hospitality, right? Right. So let's talk a little bit about kind of what we're doing at CSI and what you're seeing that has allowed CSI to be, I don't know, 85% female?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty strong number. I mean, I think it's interesting because, you know, I think the biggest piece of it is we have a lot of people that are continuing to grow within CSI because they're being promoted from within, right, to these leadership roles. Because they have these strong female leaders that are very trusting of the future and understanding that they can take on these responsibilities. I mean, speaking about Hope Valentine, I mean, I think she's an incredible leader. She was a single mom when she started out her career. And I think she was really empowered to empower other women. So I think it's just, you know, it's that opportunity to kind of continue to empower the people within our company. And they're 85% female. So we're going to empower the females in our company. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. What I think is also interesting is as we've grown from a small DMC to a larger DMC, and shifted from a female-owned DMC to a male CEO. Yeah. There was a moment where we could have shifted from that female leadership style to something maybe, you know, the larger companies do still tend to have a lot more male leaders than female leaders. But I think it's been great that we've kept our our large lady voices at the table, because it has given that role model for everyone else on the team to say, like, I can speak up. My voice can be heard. And as a female, I feel empowered to grow and to do big things, whether I'm a single mom or I'm not a mom at all. It doesn't matter, right? We're kind of building this platform where women can be in leadership roles and should be in leadership roles. And I was thinking about, in the Boston market, how there are several 5-star properties. And I thought about every 5-star property in Boston and realized that there is a female director or above in every single 5-star property. And if you were to ask me that 10 years ago,
Wouldn't be the
or
case.
even 7 years ago, 6 years ago, I might not have been able to say that. And so it's beyond just the DMC world, right? It's all of hospitality, where we're seeing much more strength in women leadership, but also they're getting roles that there were traditionally males roles, and they're starting to finally open up to females. So for many years now, I've had the pleasure of moderating the International Women's Day events that take place in the New England market. It's usually early March every year. I highly recommend looking up what's going on in your neck of the woods over that week, because most markets do celebrate International Women's Day in the meetings industry. And I've had the pleasure of interviewing. I've been the moderator a couple times on some panels where most recently I was a moderator for a panel where the female general manager of the convention center was one of the guests, the female president of Encore Boston Harbor, the only casino in the market. She was newly aligned as the president, and then a female general manager of a fairly large convention property hotel in the Seaport District were my guests, and also the executive, the CEO of the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Wow!
So you're talking some really important leadership roles in the city of Boston that were all female led. And we had this interesting conversation about not only, juggling work-life balance, which was a really hot topic, and a lot of questions from the audience came around that, but also juggling having a seat at the table when you still might have a board of directors that are heavily male.
Right.
Or you still might have a team and certain departments that are heavily male. And so while you've been given this opportunity to have some power, you're still managing it as a female and not just as an executive sometimes, and how that kind of dynamic has impacted their leadership journeys along the way. But I was just so proud to sit there and say, wow, these ladies are bosses, and I'm so proud to sit among them, because they are truly making a difference in the hospitality and tourism world in the greater Boston area, and encouraging everyone in the room. I would say the audience was very heavily female, as you can imagine, and giving them all hope that, like, I could do that too.
Yeah.
And I don't have to take a step back for any reason.
Well, so tell me a little bit, like, how did they manage that leadership style, given the fact that they are, still dealing with a potentially all male board of directors or all male, leadership among them?
Yeah, I think confidence is key, right?
Yeah.
These are some confident ladies. They know their stuff. They know it inside and out, and they never sat at the board table and were intimidated by the group. They sat and they said, I know my space better than anyone else at this table, so I'm going to own that and I'm going to bring it. And I thought that was a really cool thing to hear, because, especially in like the world of gaming and casinos, there's just not a lot of females at that level. And, she sat there and said, I dress the part. I sit there, tall, and I make sure that I'm heard and I'm not barreled over by the men in the room, because that's not who I am. So I'm not going to represent myself that way at this table, the same way I wouldn't at a table, of people that work for me or, are in lower roles than I am. So
yeah,
I thought that was really interesting. It's how you carry yourself and having the confidence, but also, your stuff.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, because confession, I think we've all felt that quote unquote imposter syndrome, sitting in a space and, you know what you know and you feel confident. But then when you are in those meetings or in that, have that opportunity to speak up, it can be overwhelming, right?
Totally.
It can be a little intimidating. So I think it's always impressive to kind of see that confidence and in other female leaders and be like, oh, wait, I can be like that. I can sit up tall and I can say what I need to say and I can come prepared and be a voice in the room.
Totally.
I did want to talk quickly because I think it's also interesting. We've had so many females come into our company, given the COVID situation. A lot of people came in from other industries and had never thought about hospitality as an opportunity and now are in the hospitality space. And I think that's equally inspiring too, to see people kind of pivot within their careers and join the hospitality space. And all of these women kind of coming into the fold. It's been a really remarkable transition to have, people from all different walks of life. We have people that were teachers previously, people that, had careers in other sectors, and they are inspired to now be part of this kind of, this world.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, we lost a lot of great talent over the last, 5 years ago, I would say. But we got a reinvigorated group of diversity.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that talent, I think that, not to say there's anything wrong with the wonderful teams that we had pre-COVID, but the eclectic backgrounds of this new group of people has brought more to the table to really reflect on what CSI could do outside of just sort of staying in our normal day-to-day. So I think that, when you bring someone in that has experience that's different than yours, they're going to ask questions that maybe you weren't thinking about. And they're going to maybe, especially in the training process, they're going to say, like, why do we do it that way? Or have you ever thought about, this way? Or would you be open to me trying this tool that I used in my last, world that might have some value here? And all of a sudden you have some new opportunities for CSI to get stronger because of the backgrounds that everyone's bringing to the table.
So tell me a little bit about your journey within the leadership space, being that confident, woman in the room. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So event planner confession, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome myself. And I worked for an independent DMC. And when CSI acquired us, I became a partner at CSI. I was 29 years old.
Wow.
And my business partners were not in my same generation. And they were much more established in their careers. They had much bigger resumes to talk about. And candidly, it was a little intimidating, but I had to sit there with confidence, knowing that there was a reason that they picked me and there was a reason that they felt confident in me to be their partner. And I just remember we had our first sort of like all hands meeting after I became a partner, and it was my sort of introduction to every employee at CSI. And we had some different breakouts that day. And one of the breakouts was sort of 30 years old and under, to go into this one room and sort of talk about emerging leadership. And I went into that room and my CEO, said to me, "What are you doing going in there?" I was like, "I'm 29. He was like, "I had no idea." And I realized in that moment, age is just a number.
Yeah.
It's how you act and how you, what you bring to the table that matters so much more. And I felt like I was the story that was empowering all these other people in that room to be able to know that I was in that room too, and that they could someday get to a position of leadership that maybe, was in their future and their goals. That, changed my perspective on how I wanted to approach things moving forward. So, as I moved forward, because that was, 2 or 3 months after becoming part of CSI, and I was still really trying to take it all in, and trying to figure out what my role was and where I fit. And, it took a while, especially with what happened over the next few years, for me to really figure out how to be a leader, how to still use my strengths to be a great salesperson, because that really was my strength, but also how to be an owner.
Right.
And those are all different things and had different skill sets. And, again, I had 2 business partners that were male, 2 that were female, all of which gave me wonderful advice, but none of which were me, and none of which were in exactly my shoes. So I had to really figure it out my way too. And, as I recently got promoted into the C-suite with the rest of them, I said, what, it took some time and I had to figure it out. And I had to learn over the last 6 years, I wasn't ready to be in the C-suite. I may have been ready to be a partner at the company, but I wasn't ready to be in the C-suite until this year. And if you had asked me that 6 years ago, I would have said, oh, I'm ready. I can do it all. I can take on the world. But sometimes the confidence in just being a sponge and taking it all in and still sitting there and saying, I've got this. But knowing that you don't have to have the right answer for everything. You don't have to take up all the air in the room. I worked for I worked in and around some female leaders who took all the air out of the room, candidly. Got stuck in an elevator with them once. They literally took all the air out of the room. And it took me years to realize I don't have to be like that. Just because I had some of those things in my past experience doesn't mean I have to be the one that speaks the most. If I listen more, I'll learn more and I'll become better. And that took years. And I think that that's a leadership skill that females do really well. They're good listeners, which allow them to use their empathy and their emotional intelligence to be good managers as well.
Agreed. I think it's interesting because, when I started out at a DMC and I started out in operations, it was the most terrifying moment of my career because I was like, hold on, I'm being given a lot of responsibility to manage an incredible amount of money, right? A big budget. I'm answering to people that are way above me in terms of their careers at this point. And I'm having to deliver on something that has to be impressive and perfect, right?
Flawless, right?
So you have this incredible pressure. And I remember that moment thinking like, okay, I can either kind of run with my head down and just kind of, be terrified, or I can be confident, but also balance the, fake it till you make it kind of scenario with the ability to say, I need support, I need help. I'm going to lead on the people that are around me to be able to provide me that support. And those people were female. So it was really a humbling experience to kind of be in that position. And to understand that, it is a balance. It's a delicate balance between the two. And that really kind of set me on the path that I am on now because you had to kind of do it all.
No, absolutely. And I think, some people say fake it till you make it, but no one's really faking it. We have a lot of information and we have a lot to work off of. We're just having to appear more confident than maybe we are in times, right? And I think that there's a big difference there because you're not faking it. You're just things can be intimidating, especially when you're working with different, levels of planners with different levels of experience, and they, have a lot to bring to the table as well. And you have to meet that, match that, and expand upon it. So, I think a lot of our clients are female, which is a really interesting dynamic. And there's that whole, idea around females that want to bring each other up versus females that maybe aren't so good at that. And I think we've done a great job of really trying to be females that bring each other up. And with that becomes, culture moments. Last year I was out on maternity leave, and we hire a lot of women, as we've talked about. And with that, we tend to, there's a high level of people that do need maternity leave support because, our average employee is, mid to low 30 female. And I think that, we had to revamp our maternity leave policy because it wasn't working. It wasn't enough. And it wasn't really, it wasn't setting us up for our talent to continue. And so by doing a step back program where after you've, finished your maternity leave and worked, with your state support and all of that, you now come back 1 day a week and then 2 day a week and then 3 day a week. And some people, called it a day at 4 days a week. And so that's enough for me. We've had several people come back from maternity leave and decide 4 days a week is what they're going to do moving forward because that's something they can balance.
Having that flexible schedule is really the key, right? I wish I had that when I was on maternity leave for sure. I think it's made an incredible impact just talking to some of these females that are coming back and feeling empowered and confident, and they don't have to do it all. but they still feel supported.
Yeah. I came back from maternity leave and I was rearing to go. I was like, let's do this. Like, I feel like
I was getting emails from you even before you were supposed to be back. So confession, Kara was emailing me on maternity leave.
Oh, shoot. But I do still think that, just to take it a step further, I think we support women really well at CSI. And we do have a lot of women independent contractors who are entrepreneurial females who own wedding planning businesses, and they work for us during the week for corporate events. And you just get this sense of this, this boss babe energy that I'm so proud to be a part of. And I'm so proud to have on our leadership team. We've got 4 senior vice presidents at CSI, 3 females and 1 male. We've got of our director levels, I think we've got 3 males and all the rest are females.
Yeah, for sure.
So we've really set the tone for strong women that can make an impact and can manage work-life balance, can grow their careers, and can really lead people in a positive way. So I'm really proud.
Yeah, me too. So, I mean, this has been great. I think the more we can empower females, the more we can do together. So
I also want to talk about the I don't want to call it an elephant in the room because it's not, but I want to talk about the pronouns that are used appropriately or not appropriately in events and in business now. I know I have a lot of clients who, have their pronoun listed on their email signature, or they want them printed on their name badge at the conference show. And I think it's important to not just talk about female leadership, but talk about
empowering anyone
and being able to identify however you want to identify, but maybe being a minority or in a position that, maybe you don't feel like your voice as a group is being heard or as an individual is being heard. And, in the traditional business sense, it was males, white males sitting in a room making all the decisions. And I think hospitality is so much more than that. And it is more than just females sitting in a room making decisions now too, right?
Yeah.
It is all different types of walks of life and people that represent and identify differently.
Yeah, I think, because we're talking about, the fact that there is a female contingency that is overwhelmingly involved in the hospitality sector, we'd be remiss not to mention that. So I think it's important to note that even at CSI, we're having these conversations about how to make sure that we are inclusive towards everyone, depending on how they identify. And it is also part of the conversation that we had at that leadership meeting too, in terms of, HR and how we can better address those, those things that need addressing.
But also not just at CSI, in our events too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, it's having, gender inclusive bathroom options. It's having, again, the identifiers on your name tags. It's as simple as that sometimes, but it can make a huge difference for that particular attendee that really is looking for that. And I think as we think about, leadership and where things are going in hospitality, it's important to know that that's where they're going. They're going in a place where people need to be able to identify however they identify and feel comfortable saying that.
Yeah, and I
with
think
confidence in the room.
I'm excited to dive into that. I think we're going to dedicate an episode to inclusivity at events. It's definitely something that we're talking about more frequently, and when we're talking about, things that are trending, it's got staying power that we have to make sure that we're considering it, and we have to, make it a conversation. So I'm excited to dive into that in a future episode where we can kind of understand and unpack a little bit about how people are approaching that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point, because it's not just all about women in leadership. It's all about representation.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And having a really inclusive representation.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep that conversation going.